Welcome and bienvenidos to Cultural Capacity, a podcast sponsored by Educator Aid Incorporated, where our team is committed to supporting individuals and organizations on their journey of self-aware leadership, emotional wellness, and development of effective cross-cultural communications. Let's get ready to explore the following topics together by biting into them with little pieces that go really deep to examine ourselves. Topics like bias, culture, cultural psychology, cultural neuroscience, diversity, equity, inclusion, and racial equity. Our episodes are all 10 minutes or less and intended to serve as introspective tools for you as the individual leader or the teams that you're leading. Be sure to check out the links in the podcast description where you can sign up for our free quarterly subscription, Better Community, as well as tap in and submit your questions via the voice message button. Let's get ready to learn together. Hey, you all. Welcome to this episode of the Cultural Capacity Podcast. I am this episode's host, Justine Gonzalez, and let's dive right in. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about what is a cautionary case study and how could it help my organization? So, cautionary case study is something that myself, as well as my co-author, Augustin Emua. You can look him up on LinkedIn. I encourage you to do so. But we published a text in 2021 called The Social Capital Quotient. I will include it in the show notes here, but today I am giving you a free snapshot of one of the book's cautionary case studies. So I am going to read it, and what I encourage you to do, as I do with any episode and in future episodes of this podcast, this is not only for your individual introspection as a leader, whether that's in the nonprofit world, the K-12 or higher education world, whether you're in human resources or recruitment and retention work, maybe you work for a corporation. The intention of this podcast is that it's not only a tool for your own self-awareness and introspection, specifically with the umbrella of topics you see in our description, but also you could easily take this because it's bite-sized. It's usually around 10 minutes that you can use it with a team, right? So these could be other colleagues you work closely with, and you want to have some type of structure to have conversations about better understanding one another's perspectives and perceptions, the values that you each hold, the beliefs that you each bring to the table, not only in your personal lives, but your professional world and how that might show up. So just kind of framing up again the purpose and context of this podcast. We are currently in open calls for some other hostesses or hosts as we continue moving forward. The intention will be to continue growing and expanding and giving people a platform to really answer questions that they might get a lot. They might receive those questions a lot, or perhaps you have an area or lens of expertise that you just want to share with the world in a quick way. So that is out there. Please do email us at educatoraid@gmail.com if you're interested, and we can share details with you how you can host a future episode. We are still in the baby stages and continuing to grow the Cultural Capacity Podcast. So we're going to dive right in. Again, the purpose of a cautionary case study is to actually examine another person's situation. Now, anything that me and my co-author write about is reflective of our own realities or lived experiences to some degree or another. So I want you to remember it's much easier when we deal with the psychological realm of accepting all of who we are. That means all the parts, even the parts that we don't really like as much. And we're like, oh, I don't know why I do that. Or why do I keep saying this or doing that? That's okay. It's about this idea of acceptance, meaning when we do accept who we are, then we can have this opportunity to change, to evolve our ways of thinking, to open up our perceptions in our world. And sometimes that's really, really hard to do. It's really hard to look in the mirror sometimes. So one way that we kind of stair step in education, you call this a gradual release model, is we marinate on this made up cautionary case study to actually analyze another person's behaviors, another person's patterns, their formats of communicating, their beliefs, their values, and then the whole situation as well. And by doing that, it helps put us in a place where, as having our lived experiences and being practitioners in this world, we can actually analyze something honestly before we have to just kind of go in and tear off the band-aid on ourselves. So today we're examining a cautionary case study. Again, this is in our text. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, pretty much anywhere you search for books. And it's called The Social Capital Quotient, and it's by Augustin Amua, as well as myself, Justine Gonzalez. So today we're going to dive into a case study about Victor. In this cautionary case study, we meet Victor. And if you're doing this with a team or even just individually for a daily reflective practice on your leadership, have a pen and paper handy, or your memo pad on an iPad, or your phone, whatever's conducive if you are a note taker and you want to jot down some details and thoughts. At the close of this reading, I will provide you with the guiding questions for your team to utilize and to marinate on. And just know there's a bunch more of these reflective processes and practices within the actual book. If you decide to purchase that, again, I will link it in the show notes if that's your thing. Okay, in this cautionary case study, we meet Victor. The story of Victor gives us a snapshot of mid-level leadership roles and how they often become overlooked due to a lack of value, either directly or indirectly communicated by the organization and owned by the individuals. Victor has been serving as the program coordinator for a mid-sized nonprofit that serves multiple states within one geographic region. At this point, he's considered a veteran, as he served within his role for 2.5 years. Employee retention has been a big issue. He's seen the executive leadership team bring up the issue, but no solution seemed to be at the forefront of the conversation. During his time with the organization, Victor has seen 2 different executive directors named and multiple coordinator roles created and removed from the org chart. Now remember, he's already seen 2 executive directors, and he's only been in his role for 2.5 years and is considered a veteran. Just wanted to recap real quick. He would love the opportunity to move into a director role and grow his leadership capacity. But if he's really honest, he's been scouring the internet for new roles elsewhere. Though he's never been directly impacted by financial cuts, he has serious reservations continuing with an organization that seems to turn over its employees like pancakes on a griddle. An additional hurdle is that he feels a sense of loyalty to the founder of the nonprofit. Previously, the founder was one of Victor's mentors and actually knows his family. There are many times when Victor has been called upon to complete tasks that, quite frankly, a program coordinator should not be doing. The last thing he wants to do is let down his mentor, but he also knows he should be honest about his desire to grow in his leadership. He's torn between just going elsewhere where this desire is seen in him, or waiting patiently at the current organization in the hope that someone recognizes, 1, what he does, and 2, that he could have further impact if he were actually recognized as more than a program coordinator. So there's a lot of layers to this cautionary case study. They are typically, the way how we write them, they are typically intended to be pretty short like this. So again, even if you allocate the first 10 minutes of your team meeting, department meeting, etc., for this, and even just have people do it on their own as a reflection point of thinking through and analyzing some different contextual elements, there's a lot to unpack and a lot to reflect on for Victor as far as the situation that he finds himself. So now we're going to provide you with just a few questions, some guiding questions for you to really ponder. The first 4 questions are to unpack the situation itself. And then I will actually provide you with 3 self-reflection questions. So you're actually getting a total of 7 questions with this cautionary case study. And then I will be wrapping up this episode. Thank you for joining. The first question, number 1, how does Victor value his role? Number 2, how does the organization value Victor's role? Number 3, what's at stake for Victor if he leaves? And number 4, should the founder take responsibility for low employee retention? Again, those are to help unpack. And again, you might break this apart. Maybe you just do one question with your team and kick it off, and then you revisit it and analyze what's really happening. Those are the 4 questions. And then these 3 are just for your own personal self-reflection. Who are you most connected to in your current role and why? The next question, what makes you know you are valued in your current role? And finally, when people don't feel valued in your organization, who do you think is to blame? So, just some initial questions to start to build more awareness around not only retention, but how do we enact engaged leadership, not just passive leadership or decision making of like, well, I'm waiting for this to happen. But I wanted to leave you all with that. Thank you for tuning in, and a shout out to my soul partner in life, Mr. Scott. He's the director and producer of our new commercial that we did together. So check that out as well. You will hear him on that. And I look forward to hearing the new episodes that we're going to be launching in the near future with some other featured hosts and hostesses. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you want to see the typed out questions, I have put them in the show notes for you. Take care, and let's continue to get compassionately curious together. Thank you so much for showing up for yourself today and tuning in to this episode of the Cultural Capacity Podcast. We're glad you're here. If you found value in this episode, be sure to share out with your social networks. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a review on Apple. You know, all the things. Finally, don't forget to take advantage of our free quarterly subscription that is in our podcast description. The link is right there. It's called Better Community, and we would love to have you join us there too. Until next time, take care.